What is happening, people? Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm joined by a fantastic panel as we dissect that West Ham win. We completely come back and absolutely battered West Ham in the end. I'm absolutely delighted, firstly, to be joined by James Black. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show, James. How you been doing?
Yeah, good, man. Still buzzing. They get battered everywhere they go. Yeah, love it. Everyone knows a West Ham fan, don't they? And they're all coming out of the woodwork now. So, yeah, it's been a fantastic weekend. West Ham, Chelsea, and the Woolwich losing. So yeah, I'm buzzing still, man. Big match of the day, that wasn't it?
Oh, it was absolutely special. And then City, little controversial winner right at the very death as well. I mean, couldn't have asked for that much more. So no, it's great to have you back on the show, James.
Thanks, man.
Alfie, thank you very much for coming on once again. How you been doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. As James said, it was perfect weekend, really, in my eyes. Watching, I was at the ground watching the game. Delighted when the goals just kept coming for us, it seemed, and everyone else dropping points just only made it a bit sweeter that weekend. So perfect in my eyes.
It did, absolutely. I mean, it's been a long time, isn't it, since we've seen Spurs win and Arsenal losing the same weekend, and then we get Chelsea losing, obviously West Ham losing against us the same weekend, City winner. Just everything seemed to go our way. A lot of tears from Arsenal fans as well from different decisions. So I'm certainly not going to be complaining. Justin, welcome back on the show. Obviously a regular on the show. Discussing something positive today after a really good footballing weekend. And the guys have discussed, it's been perfect, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, to be fair, if there was a famous alcoholic beverage that said they don't do weekends, but to be fair, that's not far off it. To be fair, and especially needed after the Brighton game. I think that was it was important, because I think if that had gone wrong, then I think maybe people would have started asking questions, and I think actually it's turned it on its head and shown. Maybe the bloke does know what he's doing.
Just maybe. Maybe he's been listening to the podcast. I said to the guys.
Yeah, maybe.
Fine. Maybe he's been listening to us, Justin, or mainly you. Who knows? We'll find out maybe in the transfer window whether you've been listened to or not, and anyone at the club is listening. So that'd be interesting. But if you need the channel, yeah, exactly. If you need the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so. It does help the channel and the podcast grow. Channel's done well the last week or two, so thank you very much for your continued support. If you're listening though, also on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review. By all means, head over to YouTube and do smash that subscribe button. Also, massive shout out to our sponsors, the Kitmen. We've done a giveaway this weekend ahead of the West Ham game to give away a Spurs scarf. And we announced the winner for that. So check X if you haven't already. You might be the winner. You just never know. I believe the winner is claiming their prize as we speak. So go check out, the Kitman. And if you use the coupon Scarfy15, you do get a 15% discount. Wide range football memorabilia for you, past and current. But we'll focus on a game. And I want to go back to pre-match. I was going to say an hour, but it's not now, is it? It's like an hour and 15 before when the lineup comes out. Because Son was back in that lineup as expected, replacing Timo Werner, and also Basuma coming in for Bentancur in that midfield. James, was there any surprise in there for you?
No, not really. What I like to see, Son coming back was amazing. I know that Werner's had these critics, and to be honest, you quite rightly so. I think there's a big golfing class between Werner and Son. Werner gets in them positions because he's a bit faster, but if you can't finish him, what's the point? And looking back again, like I've watched it about 6 times. I'm just like that if we win. And yeah, I love it, man. I love it. And so watching what Son and Solanke, the work rate they were doing off the ball, for me, it was just incredible. They're both like amazing there. Surprises, no. Kulusevski was absolutely incredible. I'm sure we'll come to all this. Some of them, Kulusevski was incredible for me. But yeah, no, surprise-wise, no. I like that lineup when it came out. And to be fair, they went as strong as they could as well, didn't they? Just not strong enough.
No, just not strong enough at all. Blown away in the end. But no, thank you very much. Justin, what do you make of that lineup when it came out? Obviously, we've talked a lot on the podcast about kind of that, what our best midfield trio is, but also about Werner and him struggling for confidence. So I don't think it was a surprise, was it, to see Son come back into that lineup? It's just a case of whether he's fit or not.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the reason, the rationale is, I think, maybe Mikey Moore's being kept for the Thursday night or for other sort of bits like that. We'll just have to wait and see how that pans out with him. But the fact when he sort of indicated that he was fit and that he was available, I didn't think it was out of the question. I didn't think it was going to be any other thing bar Sonny starting. I suppose maybe not a surprise, but maybe something that Postecoglou stumbled upon through the game was obviously the midfield trio in terms of, with going with an effect almost like two number 10s. Was it going to be a little bit risky? Obviously, it turned out it was. But it does mean obviously that potentially we've now got a lot more squad in depth in terms of that role because, for me, Kulusevski's been our player of the season so far. I think just what he has brought to that team. So I get why Postecoglou probably wanted him and Maddison to start because Kulusevski offers more, whereas Maddison's more down the middle. But as we saw, it did become a bit of an issue. So I wasn't surprised. I kind of thought that was our most attacking lineup, but I did think it maybe lacked that balance in the middle, which, to be fair, in the first half, as we'll get into, West Ham did expose.
Yeah, they certainly did. We will get into it and how the game kind of changed and Andrew's in-game management as the show goes on. Alfie, Justin does mention there that midfield kind of trio, if you like, and what was going to happen there. Were you surprised to see Basuma come in? Because I think Bentancur's had a good start to the season, would you say?
Yeah, I was a bit taken aback by how not many people were sort of surprised at that switch. As you said, I think Bentancur has played well for the past few weeks, really well, in fact. He had no international break, obviously, as well, because he was banned with Uruguay. I just thought he was fresh off the international break. I was surprised he wouldn't start. But I do sort of see it now. I think it makes more sense after the halftime switch. Clearly, Andrew's a bit worried about the defensive sort of combination of the midfield and it leave us a bit too open. And I think maybe he thought if he had Bentancur in there as well, a player who's sort of been moved, I think, from an 8 to a 6, that he's going to be a bit worried if he's going to leave us too open. So in that way, I was surprised at the start of the lineup. But as the game wore on, it sort of made sense through his changes. Although, even though Basuma did score, I didn't think he had the most amazing game. And I would probably still bring Bentancur back in for a game like Crystal Palace. But I think as the game wore on, you sort of saw at least the rationale behind the switch, which I was surprised to see when the lineup came out, to be fair.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with all of you actually on that. I think Son was a definite, just a case of if he's fit, is it worth the risk? How long can he play for? Actually, I think that's the main question. But Basuma did take me by surprise just a little bit, I would say. Before we get into the game itself, though, James, would you say that pre-match this was a must-win game, considering before the international break, that Brighton collapse that we had where we lost 3-2, but also Andrew's record in London derbies, which, as we know, come into this up against Arsenal, Chelsea, and West Ham. It wasn't good, was it, coming into it? Would you say it's must win?
Yeah, well, I'd go further than just must win. I think it was must win and must win on playing a good show as well, putting a good show on, because what we've been on in this season with Postecoglou, I feel, is weirdly, I think we're playing better than that start from last season. We're not getting the results, and those defensive calamities are costing us. So I think it was after that second half from Brighton, I think every single Spurs fan was seething, and they had I know Postecoglou said this, but we had 2 weeks to sit on it as well. So we were seething for that, and at the players and the manager and where it will come from. So that breakdown is just unacceptable. So not just a must win. I really liked. We was talking during the first half. I was sat with the drummer and stuff, and we was chatting through this, what we think's happening, and they weren't so gung ho. And I wonder if it's like saving some energy so they didn't collapse in that second half, and they could be more controlled. But yeah, like I say, not just a must win in the way that we did, and it's emphatic. But I still feel I'm on this roller coaster a little bit. It's not like I can see this consistency now and that's it. I still feel I'm a bit on this roller coaster, and as a Spurs fan, still nervous even for Thursday, of what's going to turn up. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the way they played. That second half was just, but before the red card as well, it was a brilliant performance, and especially to do it against those guys that are not really important. Do you know what I mean? But on their cup final day, it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was their cup final there. Say it wasn't, but it certainly is. You know that because of all disappeared now.
They
Alfie,
disappeared during the game, didn't they?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they went out, didn't they, like a fire drill? But I think there's no, difference maybe to their home games either. But I think because it was Spurs as well, they're all gone. I think by 80 minutes. Talk about supporting your team to the end. Didn't happen in this case. It's a little dig there. But Alfie, same kind of question to you. Would you say it was must win coming into this game? Again, he's the Brighton. We can ignore the Brighton game, but I think it's important. Going into the international break with a loss is not what you want. We're further behind after that first 7-8 games we would have wanted to be. It had to be a win, didn't it? Whatever way you look at it.
Yeah, I think must win doesn't even do it justice. I think because the way you sort of look at it, and I was looking at the fixtures before the game, and I was just thinking, if we lose this one, it's a big blemish on Ange's record. And I started to think, would it be able to be even recovered at that point? I'm a massive supporter of Ange, probably one of the biggest among the fan base. I think I can't see anyone doing a better job than him, but I do honestly think a lot of the fan base would have started to turn on him if he had lost his game. I don't necessarily think the Brighton second half was completely down to him at all, but if you lose at home to a West Ham side that is currently sort of having quite a few teething issues, they're nowhere near their strongest that they could possibly be. I think with the group of players that they have, I think if you lost it at home, especially if the manner of the defeat had happened after the first goal went in, I was thinking, oh, this could go bad. If this goes for another goal for them, it's going to be sort of another Spurs have no backbone. They're crumbling at the first goal. I was sort of starting to think these are the narratives that are going to come out. We did really well to sort of throw that back in the face of the pundits and all the opposition fans that are starting to think that, and I think maybe a few of the fans that were starting to think that of our own. So I think it was a brilliant win, and almost the victory doesn't feel as good as the loss would feel as bad, if that makes sense. I think the loss would have been an absolutely awful loss, and I'm just glad that we didn't only win but won emphatically. I think it was more than a must win really. That would have been an almost unacceptable defeat in the eyes of most fans, and probably rightly so as well. West Ham aren't at their best anyway at the moment, so I think it was a needed victory and one that we got over the line as well, really in an impressive way.
Yeah, definitely. Nicely put. I completely agree with you. Justin, again, must win for you. And coming into it, did Ange's record in London derbies concern you? That West Ham obviously lost at home last season. We didn't beat them at all last season in any competition. So were you a little bit worried coming into it as well, knowing that West Ham come from the back of the win before the international break against Ipswich, a little bit of momentum? Were you a bit worried, with Spurs? James talked about it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't so much so, had we lost, I don't think it would have been as catastrophic. I think the problem would have been, though, is it sets a narrative. And I kind of understand where Alfie's coming from in that it opens up a conversation of, is this guy actually taking us forward? Because when you look at the games that we've, not got the results in and things like that, you do sit there and think, but part of this is because of what you're trying to embed, and there's, had you maybe changed your style or been a bit more pragmatic, we might have a few more points on the board. We'll never know on that one. But I don't think it would have been like the end of the world had it been. I think the problem would have ultimately been, though, it would have raised more questions about, is this guy going to be right? Especially, obviously, as the next game would have been Palace away. Are we actually going to be making progress? Because one of the damning parts about Spurs is that Postecoglou is the longest running manager we've had since Pochettino. So you sort of look at that and you think, well, is he making progress? And is the board, doing the right thing in terms of with this guy? But, credit to him for getting that result, and also the changes that were made in the second half. So I do feel that was really important in terms of, London records, things like that. There isn't many that have had a spectacular record in that. I know Poch's wasn't too bad, but I thought some of the others were a little bit, hit and miss. And I think the one thing that I do maybe like a bit about with Postecoglou is he's not bothered by that, and I particularly am not bothered by it, because I think the narrative shouldn't be about, oh, we finished top of the London Derby table. We haven't won
Yeah.
anything, but we finished top of the London Derby table. And you listen to him, and that is what he's trying to get across here, is the fact that, yes, it's nice to beat West Ham, but we should be treating West Ham in the same way as we would treat beating Newcastle, Fulham,
Yeah.
Bournemouth. You know, no
It's just
disrespect to
true.
those teams, but we should be treating them at the same level, that it should be a team that is in front of us. We're playing to that team, and we're playing to beat that team. It shouldn't be a case of that we want to beat them because it's West Ham, you know. And I think that is where he is trying to get the mentality of this club and that sort of thing towards. I do think it is a long way to go. You know, I don't think that's just on the players. I think that's higher up as well. But I do think you can sense what he is trying to achieve, and the fact that, you know, he didn't, you know, in his post match press conference, he didn't sort of, you know, beat the drum about that he was being a London team. He was basically talking about how well the team had played and what they had been doing and this, that, and the other, which really did try. You can see he's trying to get across to him. It doesn't matter if they're from where they're from, just go out there and beat them. Simple as that, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think as fans, you know, London derbies always mean, more, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But I think you're right, our point of view is you just got to win, regardless of the game.
No matter who it is, you've got to win.
So yeah, it's all good winning your important games, your big games, but how many times the Spurs in recent years, and regardless of the manager, done the job against a big team, whether it be Manchester City, but then slipped up to someone small in the cup, for example, and not done the job that was expected of us. So I'm with you on that. But we'll move on to the game itself. 18th minute, West Ham took the lead through Kudus. Alfie, would you I don't never like pointing the finger on a podcast, but I think this is a case where maybe it does have to be done. Who's at fault for you? Would you say Porro or Doggy or both?
Yeah, I think unfortunately I have to say Udogie, but at the same time, I think people are forgetting that I actually had to double check. His age he's still 21, and he's a very young left back in the Premier League. And because his first year was so good, I think we sort of be holding to this exceptionally high standard. And he was relatively poor for that goal. I probably would place a lot of the blame on him. I think he lost the ball twice in quick succession, or didn't win his duel to win the ball back when he had two opportunities. But I think a little bit of slack needs to be given to him. He had a poor week last week, but offensively he was pretty good again today on Saturday. And I think he's still learning the division. He's still learning the league. So I place a bit on him, but I would do it hesitantly. And at the same time, that back post was very free. We've seen it. I feel like it's happened all the time, though. That there's a man that's just in the box and somehow he's free. But when we go up the other end, that doesn't seem to happen. So it's frustrating in that sense. But yeah, I think if Udogie sort of nipped the bud when it was blossoming for West Ham, then maybe that goal wouldn't have happened. But in the end, I'm happy to look past it for Udogie's behalf, because the result made it irrelevant, which was part of it was Udogie who created the second goal. So I'm happy to sort of discount his blame for that first goal, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think you made up for it. So thank you, Alfie. We'll get into that. James, Alfie obviously mentions there a doggy, but I also want to mention Porro because Kudus scored the goal. I mean, he's unmarked. You would have thought, I don't know, but it would have been Pedro Porro's job. Has he got to do more, or whoever on that? So Brennan Johnson to get across to Kudus, because at the end of the day, regardless of how you play, you can't leave opposition players unmarked in the box, can you?
No, I think Alfie's right. I think it's largely was Udogie, but the point that you're making there, Harry, is more poignant in the fact that just before it, we got a warning shot from exactly pretty much the same situation that Vigario made a fantastic save with. So having that warning shot and then the goal come from a slightly similar situation, that is annoying. And I think I don't know, mentioned at the start there where we were saying, I think Alfie mentioned, you suddenly start to think, oh God, this could go really wrong here. And after that shot had gone in and that goal had gone in, I was like, Christ. And we're all off the back of that second half from Brighton. So and on top of that, and Udogie was to be lauded for, and Porro for turning that back round. So as much as they were to blame, I do think it was irrelevant. I do think it's a strong elite mentality for that to happen and to turn that around, which is a very, very good sign. When you go down, you put that sort of performance in. So as much as they were to blame, I think that really we've got to praise them for that turnaround mentality-wise.
Definitely, and I think you're all entitled to mistake. And it's frustrating. We talked about the significance of this winning, but if you make up for it later, which they've done, and I think they've both been good so far this season. So no, I do agree with both of you on that. Justin, it wasn't the start though we wanted to the game, was it? I mean, we've all talked about needing to win. I mean, going behind within 18 minutes, not ideal, was it? And warning signs before that, as
yeah, I
James
mean,
rightly alluded to.
Yeah, I mean, I get where both James and Alfie are coming from in terms of the situation with Udogie and Porro in that point. But I think the as I say, when it comes to the warning signs, when you sort of looked at the gap between Maddison and Kulusevski, who are up here, and Basuma is all the way down here, all that kept happening was Souček and Paqueta just literally jumped into that part, and it was just 2-on-1. Basuma just kind of didn't know where to go at that point. So it did. I think for me, I just felt like, are we not learning any lessons from Brighton? That was the worry that I had. Was is it a case of deja vu? Are we just trying to go all out, and almost do, the Kevin Keegan of Newcastle, which is you score 4, we'll score 5, and it just sort of looks like that you can't do that. You can't play that way. So I was fearing for what was going to happen, because we have seen where the heads have gone down, and then there's been another goal, and we've really sort of struggled from that point. So that was the bit that I was more concerned about, was, well, what's going to be the reaction? Because as we saw against Brighton, when they scored 1, we completely collapsed at that point. Was it going to be that we were going to do the same to West Ham? So credit where credit's due. They rolled their sleeves up, knew that, that they couldn't let that happen again. And they found a way to resolve it, because otherwise that could have got very nasty very quickly.
Yeah, it could have. But moving on to something more positive, in the 36th minute, we did level the game 1-1. Kulusevski. I mean, James, that's a great strike, wasn't it, from Kulusevski? Solo goal, if you like, a solo strike off the post and in. But has Areola got to do better? Or we're being a bit critical there?
No, again, when I looked it back on the on Match of the Day 6 times, there was a lot of players in front of him, weren't there? So to find that angle, to find that gap, and when you're on a goalkeeper's side, you've got all these players in front of you, so you are like blocked from different angles. I thought it was an incredible goal. I didn't think it had gone in, if I'm honest with you, but from the angle where I was, it took a while. So just had to listen to the crowd cheer for, and it's like a computer game goal when it was bouncing across the line. Like took forever to go in, but he's been absolutely superb. I think not only been the best player for Spurs, he's got to be up there with one of the best players in the Premier League this season. He's been incredible. The fact that they've moved him into this new position, how well he's played in there. He did it against Sheffield United last season when we had to come from 1-0 down with a few minutes to go, and he was pulling the strings then. I love that goal. Obviously I love every goal for Tottenham, but that goal was special. That was brilliant. Yeah, it reminded me of a computer game when I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? That off the both posts and in, but a great strike. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen it since from on Match of the Day highlights. I mean, from different angles. There was a load of players between them. There was, and the way he's got that technique, it's just amazing. Loved it.
Yeah, I think at the time I thought, how's that gone in from that distance? And like you, I didn't think it gone in. I thought we'd hit both posts, and we were unlucky. We had a couple of chances before that, hadn't we? Porro, Johnson. I just like, I don't think it's going to be our half.
No.
Maybe not even our day, but in this case, it did go in. Alfie, it was a great strike, as we said, and I'm going to ask you as well. Do you think Areola could do a little bit more? Are you with James that there is, and I do agree with James, that there's a lot of bodies, if you like, both teams in front of Areola? He couldn't have had the cleanest view of it, could he?
Yeah, I'm with James mainly. I think there's a case for him doing better on Son's goal, the one he actually did score, not the own goal. There's definitely a case for him being beaten in his near post in that one. I want to watch the replay of that. I thought he should be saving that, but I thought Areola had a decent first half, and Kulusevski, I think you saw it a bit with Bowen as well, and Kulusevski having it a little bit himself now. Is you make your own luck, the amount of effort you put in, the amount of yards that you run. Bowen just seems to bounce the ball. The ball seems to bounce to him every time. And I was watching the first half, and he'd get the ball, he'd pick it up, and he'd bundle his way through a few players. And you think, how is he still at the ball? And Kulusevski's getting that sort of element in his game now as well, because he's the way he runs, the way he covers so much ground, and his sort of tenacity. The ball just seems to bounce for him, and that sort of when it went off both posts and then it went in, you just sort of felt that was sort of his moment. Like he sort of earned that, and it's almost he just created that from taking players on and just having a go himself. We've been crying out for Spurs so many games. You can hear it in the crowd often. Just shoot, just shoot.
Yeah.
And Porro's the only player usually to do it, and it's usually from 40 yards. But thank God that Kulusevski had a go on Saturday, and I'm glad it paid off for him because it was a bit from his position that he used to play in on the right. So when he cut in and shot across goal, I thought it was brilliant. And then when it hit this, I was sat in the West Stand, and when I saw it hit the second post and sort of just the back of the net ripple, I was delighted for him. And I think, yeah, as James said, there was a few men in the way, and maybe Ariel didn't expect Kulusevski to take the shot on, and that's all credit down to Kulusevski. I mean, the way we play, we don't always take them opportunities on, and when we do, if Kulusevski can put them in the back of the net, it's perfect for us because keepers won't be expecting it anymore.
No, absolutely. We need to shoot more. And I think there's more evidence that of that as we go on, and our next couple of goals, if you like, to why sometimes you just have got to take a shot. I'm all for progressive, patient build up, but sometimes you just got to pull the trigger and see what happens. Especially when you have the quality that Kulusevski's had this season. Because Justin, he's been amazing, hasn't he? How far would you go? I mean, I think one of you mentioned it. I think James said that maybe not just our player of the season so far, but also one of the Premier League players of the season. He's been good, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he has. And I think you've got to give a lot of credit to him with that. I mean, obviously, he's been put out on the right when he first came in, and he had a good start, in terms of when he came in for that half a season. Then, obviously, I think he got a bit more predictable, and you could see why he'd gotten predictable, because he's one of these players who kind of isn't set to just staying almost in one position. He loves to drift around. He likes to pick up the ball deep and go with it. He likes to, for the ball to be. You see him; he's all over the show really with it. And I think, he came out and said himself that that's where he saw his best position was as a number 10 really. So. I think it's money well, saved almost, or not, I suppose, spent, but saved in the fact that we didn't, that Napoli didn't come in with the £50 million that we were asking for him, because he's not worth that now. He's worth, I would probably say, nearly double that, because, and it really did also show the telling as to where Postecoglou sees him, because he took off Maddison instead of him. And that to me is very telling in terms of the difference between them, because I think Maddison's an excellent number 10, don't get me wrong, but I do think he's very central in terms of what he does. It's a case of, it's very rare. You saw it when he first joined Tottenham, he would maybe drift off into positions, but he primarily sits himself there, whereas with Kulusevski, there's lots of running. He's got so much energy in terms of where he goes, where he'll pick up the ball from, where he'll shoot. I'm in the camp that I do think Areola should save it, but if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery. So at the end of the day, it's one of the things he's had a go, and I think that is just credit to his nature and what he has done, because the amount of times we've seen players turn around and say, my best position's that, and when you put it in, they stink the place out. He has proven this season how important he is for Tottenham, and how now he gives even more options, because I'd be very surprised if we see Maddison and Kulusevski in the same team that often. I think we'll probably see that maybe one of them might get more of the European games or the cup games, whereas the other will probably get the league games, because obviously you just don't want to incur sort of any injuries. But
it'd be Kulusevski, wouldn't it? They get more than minutes at the moment based on form.
Yeah,
Will Maddison be happy with?
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if Maddison will like, just whether he likes being in Europe or not.
This is where, I think players like him and players that have come to the club that don't like that, well, we can't appease them. That's something that this club has done too many times, is appease players moaning. if you want to, we're here to win things. We're here to take on, that's where we want to get to. We want to get to the likes of challenging, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, clubs like that. We want to be at that top table and justify why we're there. Unless you are going to put in a 10 out of 10 performance, you shouldn't be playing, unless for some reason if your name's Timo Werner. But that's otherwise because that's one of the biggest mysteries that I will ever that still goes around in my head, in terms of. But I'm sure we'll get onto that later on.
You had to get that in there, didn't you?
I had to. I can't stand him. I'm sorry. I can't.
No, no, you had to. It's funny though to see, like in January, about how a lot of people coming on were like, I'd like Timo Werner coming in, and in the summer I don't see a problem with it. And that now as the season's gone on, I think a lot of people do feel the same as you. But half time it was 1-1. Alfie, what were your thoughts on that first half overall? Did you think we should have been ahead?
I think perhaps maybe, yeah. I think we had the better chances and the majority of the ball, as we usually do. But I think it was sort of maybe a draw at halftime was about fair. And I think if we don't go in at halftime as a draw, maybe Postecoglou doesn't make that switch from Maddison for Sarr, which I think changed the game. So perhaps it was for the best. First half, I thought, well, yeah, as James sort of said, when you mention it, maybe they were sort of going. I've seen first half previously. We've played outstanding, like Manchester United away. We blew them away first half, and then sort of tailed off second half. I think perhaps the Brighton game, maybe it was the same story as Man United game, and maybe the players were sort of holding back a little bit because the start of that second half, we just absolutely just hammered them. The first 20 minutes they couldn't deal with us. So I think perhaps that was maybe you'd like to think an intentional thing. But even then, first half was not too much to complain about. And I think the tactical switch was necessary, and it's one when it was made, we kicked on and we started thrashing them.
You're on mute.
You're on mute. I think he's trying to say, James, you've been fantastic guest. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's also saying about that he's going to give us all £150 for joining for this. That's what I think I heard.
No lip reader. He's saying that he loves Timo Werner. It's his
favorite.
Yeah,
that was the other thing I heard. Timo Werner. He loves Daniel Levy.
Werner should start over Son and maybe captain. Is that what you're saying?
I think what we'll do is I'll try and sort of maybe try and carry on. I mean, James, while he's sorting out his, what did you make going into half time in terms of, did you sit there and think maybe a 1-1 that was sort of a fair result, or did you think 2-1 maybe had been better, or would you have been worried had we gone to 2-1 that he wouldn't have made those changes and potentially would have given West Ham an opportunity to get back into the game?
Yeah, well, I've got to be completely honest here. I'm very similar to what Alfie was saying in terms of like if it was 1-0, I don't think he would have made them changes. I remember that before they scored, Son had that chance, and I thought that was in from where I was sat. So maybe we slightly deserved to be in the lead, but not by a great amount. And then when he made the change, I've got to be honest, I was like, well, come on, this is 1-0. We're not in the lead here. We're taking off one of the creative players. And I love Sarr, but I wanted to keep going. So I wasn't actually fully behind it, just hands up. But it turned out to be the most incredible decision. I can see why now, and that's why I'm not a football manager. But when he first made it, just being completely honest, I thought, no, don't take Maddison off. It's 1-0. Maddison was brilliant. It was his run for the Kulusevski goal, wasn't it, when Maddison just tore through? So part of me was like that, but I was wrong, and thank God I was, to be honest. Yeah, it turned out amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Can you all hear me all right now?
We can now hear you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Fantastic. God knows what happened there, but it would be a normal show, would it? Without being a technical issue. It's not quite maybe the perfect weekend, if you like, with a technical issue, but it is what it is. I'll take it. Spurs winning, that's all that matters. But we'll get back onto it. I mean, thank you, Justin, for stepping in and asking about actually the question I was going to ask. So it's all like you knew. So thank you very much. But I'm sorry, guys, I am back. 52nd minute, it can move on to the second half. 2-1 Spurs. We did get that next goal. It was Basuma with the goal. I mean, just it's fair to say that no keeper's saving this one. I mean, you can be critical of Areola for a goal or two, but thunderous strike, wasn't it, by Yves Basuma?
Yeah, it certainly was, and I think you could. That's the key part when you saw how we started that second half. In terms of obviously with Sarr coming on the pitch, it sort of seemed to nullify Paquetá and Souček. In terms of what they were doing, so it really sort of put them under a lot of pressure, and it just meant that it gave the likes of Basuma to get himself into that position, whereas I think clearly, but in the first half, he wasn't comfortable to do that. So, from his perspective, it was a fantastic goal, and I think it's one of the things that Postecoglou really sort of highlighted was, in terms of that is kind of something he does need to add to his game is a few more goals because he's got that ability in him. We have seen that he can score those goals. So I think it was nice that he was able to get the goal, and hopefully now maybe we'll see a few more of those, so that then he can start to show that because we've seen glimpses of it, but we need to see a more consistent level of Basuma to the player that we spent the big money for from Brighton.
Absolutely, we do need to see that. That's the thing. In Ange's system, I think when you have someone like that as a 6, if you like, you have to be on it. You can't go, today I feel like protecting the defence. Today I feel like, you've got to be on it 100%. So now I think that you make a really good point there. Alfie, we have been critical, of a doggy. I mean, I did ask you the question about the fault, but he does, make up for it here, doesn't he? I think he does really, really well, and that's what he does best. I think him and Son on that side, that was really nice. But I think in particular from a doggy, he done really well. Nice cutback, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really happy for him as well when he did it because I thought last game against Brighton, the finger could have been pointed at him for almost all the goals. It was just you could just tell it was a bad day for him. And then the first half goal, I was like, it's going to just keep getting worse for him. And then when he goes at the other end of the pitch, you're reminded of how good he is offensively and why he's in Ange's team. I mean, how often do you see a left back end up basically in the 6-yard box, do a pirouette, and then set up the DM? I mean, that is Postecoglou football, and that personally is why I love it. Love watching it as a fan. It was brilliant. I think he did really well. He inverted as he usually does. He took his time. He just knew, I think, Basuma was going to be there. He knew someone was on the edge of the box, how deep West Ham was sitting. One of them might be free on the edge of the box. Did really well, turned around and set it up. And yeah, he more than made up for it in my eyes. So I was really pleased for both players who scored it and assisted it. Again, it felt like that was the case against Manchester United. If you could pick the worthy goal scorers and the people that needed a goal, they were the people who scored. And I think that was the same case perhaps on Saturday, apart from Todibo. But I know, don't mind a little own goal from West Ham player as well.
No, we won't complain about that at all. I mean, it was a bit of a mix-up, it's fair to say, wasn't it, James, for that West Ham goal, Spurs goal gifted to us by West Ham. If you think of it from a West Ham point of view, who's at fault there? Is it Areola? Is it Todibo? Is it the whole back line, which I think, throughout the game, I thought was quite bad. Even that first half, I don't think we tested them enough. I still think that they were weak, but holes started to appear as well, didn't they, James, as the game went on?
Yeah, I think it goes back to something you mentioned earlier, Harry, about shooting, about making chances, just giving it a go, because there was quite a lot of that was missing from the last game. That was just having a shot, wasn't it? It's like it was obviously a lot of luck from our side, but we make our own luck, don't we? That wasn't just the only. You look about the hitting the post, all these chances that we had. We were making our own luck. It was a bit of a scramble, bit of an untidy goal, but it did reduce the attendance by about 1,400 people when it went in, which is absolutely incredible to see that. But yeah, I loved it. Again, where I was sat, I didn't know that it had gone in until they erupted. I think it was like in front of the South Stand, wasn't it? Until they erupted. So yeah, it was amazing to see that go in. I did think my first thought, and it's probably because I'm a Spurs fan, is it just my mind's still stuck on that 3-3 though. Still like, okay, still only 3-1. Do you know what I mean? This is West Ham, and this happened before. My mind just sticks on it. I don't know, maybe because I'm a Spurs boy that happens, but still wasn't comfortable, but I was happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll stay with you, James, because we'll move on to that fourth goal, which we talk about attendance, going really quickly in that West Ham end, if you like, completely disappearing. And then this was, the cherry on top. The hour mark, dead on 60th minute. It was 4-1. It was Son with the goal to seal the 3 points. I mean, that's a classic Son goal, wasn't it, James? That 32. I think that's really impressive. Coming back from an injury as well, to have that pace, that confidence after an hour to take on Todibo, who, bearing in mind, was I think he's still a big signing. West Ham. That's a big player there, but it's a classic goal, isn't it? From
Classic Sonny. Yeah, that was amazing to watch. Again, that's another one I've watched about 714 times from different angles. Those step overs and that before he smacks it in. I love that. It was amazing. A classic him in it as well. And you compare that to what was missing in the Brighton second half. Not only not having our captain, but having Werner out there instead of Sonny. I think that's a big reason that second half happened when you see that, because that first half, I'm just going back to Brighton here, sorry, but that first half that could have been 4-5 if Sonny was on that pitch, and the chances that Werner had. So he's been a big miss for us. So I really believe that. I think if you're capitulating in the second half and haven't got your captain, it doesn't really take too much working out there. I mean, touching on that though, you got there was I'm sure Kulusevski was captain of Sweden over the international break, and you got obviously Bissouma with Mali, and you got Son with South Korea. There seems to be like a bit of a backbone, natural backbone there, being created of leaders. And I love how Kulusevski talks in press. So to see that way, and on top with Sonny and Bissouma and how they are. I know that wasn't quite a question, but that's my thought process. My brain just goes everywhere. So.
No, I like it. No.
That's why I thought I like that leadership coming, and I think we missed that, and it was great to see Sonny back.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I think it's really nice to have him back from injury, back in the team, about to captain the side. Alfie, what did you make of Son's performance yesterday? And it was that goal from him, the cherry on top, wasn't that?
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I think in the last few months, I've been a bit concerned almost about Son. About is he reaching the end of his career? Is it time that we're going to have to look for his replacement, which I do think we have to do. But I think the goal sort of proved to Spurs fans why he's still in the team, why he's still an important player for us. And it's just the guaranteed goals. The minute he did them step overs, you might as well just pick the ball up and gone back, because you just knew it was going to go in. You've seen it a million times for Spurs already. When he does the 2 step overs, 2-3 step overs, and it's going to go in. And he did really well. And that sort of guaranteed goals and that sort of quality of finishing, you can't really take away from him at all. I think if you're really critical of him in the last season or so, his first touch maybe has gone a little bit. Maybe his ability to beat his man every single time, which we saw for so many years for Spurs, he's been unbelievable for us. Perhaps that's starting to wane a little bit, but the only thing that you can not take away from him is his finishing. And when he gets into that position, even if it's one-on-one with a defender and the goalie in the way, you always just have faith that he's going to score, which is why the Arsenal fans are so upset last season when he didn't score that 1-1 against Man City, because it's just not like him. And that speaks to his quality, I think. And even at, I think he's 32 now, even at 32, he's scoring at such a consistent level already. It's so impressive, and it proves why he's still such an important player, as James said, for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And although he's 32, I believe that I remember learning this fact on, I think I'd done the stadium tour, or I can't remember, I was at Spurs. And one of the members of staff told me that the age works differently in South Korea. So really, he's actually 31, but they register them at a different age. So that's really interesting to know. And then maybe another year out of him in Son, but now he is going by our kind of rules of age. He's 32 years old, but a little interesting fact why I think of it. But Justin, it was assist by Sarr that led to Son being 1-on-1 with Todibo and the ball ending in the back of the net, and West Ham fans, running home, crying home, if you like. But does Ange, deserve credit for his in-game management in this situation. Are you of the opinion that Sarr changed this game?
I think, to be fair, it is very much a case of, something that probably a lot of Spurs fans have been very critical of, and, myself included, in the, it's plan A, and if plan A don't work, do plan A better. So, I did like the fact that we finally saw him think, I still want plan A, but I'm going to tweak plan A, and I think that is maybe the bit that we need to hopefully see more of, is that he is prepared. If he still wants to go down that route, that's fine, but tweak certain bits, like, and to be, if you take it back to the Brighton game, he made those changes when we were 3-2 down, rather than when we were 2-1 down, and almost just trying to settle things down from that aspect. So I think you can see that there is that, that mentality of, okay, I want to go out and I want to win every single game, but I want to make sure that, I'm not going to go out there and we're going to just try and score so many goals, but, get walloped going the other way. So bringing Sarr on for Maddison, okay, Maddison will be frustrated, but you could tell it was needed, because the moment he came on the pitch, the difference was just astronomical in terms of how much more relaxed we were, knowing that we could stifle them in the midfield, and then it just freed up what we had sort of going forward. And I mean, the pass, to Son at that point was sublime. It really was, because it just literally, and I think this is one of the key elements of why I quite like this sort of team going forward. Maybe certain players be, changed in between, but I really do like the fact of being able, that quick sort of turnaround from defense to attack. It was one pass, one shot, and that was it, 4-1. So it really does show the importance of these players, not only to just think, how do we, protect maybe the back line, which those two in particular, Basuma and Sarr, are more aimed at, but how do we quickly turn it over and get ourselves onto the attack? And that pass, to me, summed that up perfectly.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you very much. James, I'm going to ask you as well, because, I don't think we've spoken about it with you on the show before. Andrew's in-game management, how do you view it generally his time at Spurs? And do you think he got it right in this case, that Pape Matar changed the game, or at least had an element of an impact behind winning this game in that second half?
Yeah, I think, he got it right this time. Don't think he got it right at Brighton. I think there was too much stubbornness there. But, I think he definitely got it right. And he got it right when it wasn't just me that was questioning it. I think everyone I was around was like, 1-1, why Maddison off? So he got it right in the face of everybody who kind of doubted him a little bit as well. So maybe it's a big win for him in that respect. But, I was impressed, very impressed. I actually believe that, although Kulu, I think Queen Bergfield mentioned it on the comments, although Kulu was incredible, and one of the reasons why we battered him, I think Sarr played a massive part as well. I think he was the game changer. So, and that is down to what Postecoglou's seen, where he's seen the problems are occurring. I think it was Justin saying about the gap there between us. There's a massive gap in between, and he's fixed that. So he views it a lot different, obviously, thankfully, than I do, and he's absolutely nailed that. But it wouldn't be a change that I would have made, and that's why I'm not a manager. But I was impressed.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not the only one. I mean, I was like convinced he was injured. I come out a little bit late in the stadium after half time, and I saw that Sarr was on the pitch. I saw that Maddison wasn't, and I was puzzled. I didn't see that coming. For me, it felt like a more conservative change, as Justin mentioned, being 1-0 down. I was like, oh, he's lost the plot. But we won the game 4-1. As you say, that's why we're not managers at all or have any say on that bench. Alfie, Andrew's in-game management, does he deserve credit in this instance? We all, fans are very quick to throw criticism at him against Brighton. I think rightly so, but his praise has to be loud here, doesn't it? Very clear.
Yeah, I think so. I think the whole Ange philosophy, if you like, is sort of built on the pillars of the trust of especially the players. The players trusting him is just the biggest thing. He mentioned it. If you watch him a lot, he repeats all the time, that he gets results when the players start believing in it, and they have to block out everything else and believe in him. And if that change doesn't make the players, apart from Maddison, maybe believe in him, I don't know what can it was brilliant. As you said, I came out for the second half. He's brought Sarr on. I thought maybe bring him on for Basuma, sort of go a little bit more for it, go a bit more legs, a bit more power, running power forward. And I was counting around. I can't see Maddison, and I couldn't believe that he'd done it. And then you start to see the game play out, and you just have to respect as much as you might criticize him against Brighton. I think he sort of proved that he is a good tactician in game, which is perhaps one of the only sticks you had left to beat him with if he wanted to in his manager game. And I was really impressed that he did it. And to be fair to him, if you watch there's a footage going around of literally the whistle goes, he turns around and just says, "Star, get your shirt on, you're coming on." He knew the minute that seed must have been planted in his head.
Yeah, at the end of the first half, you could see him
Wow.
just go, "You," like that, not even battering an eyelid. He was like, he knew what he was doing. So yeah,
That's
definitely.
interesting.
Yes, he must have been thinking that from 30th minute minimum. It must be in his mind, and I think that's a really impressive aspect he's added to his sort of managerial game. And I think it's only going to increase the respect among the players for him and the Spurs fan base as well. As I said before, his whole philosophy is sort of it boils down to the players wanting to believe in the system and the way he wants to manage. And I think a switch like that's really bold, no one else would have gone for it, I don't think, that pays off is perfect. So I think it's the ideal situation for Ange and for Spurs because it paid off beautifully. So I was really impressed.
It certainly did, didn't it? But the next thing I want to move on to, 86th minute, Kudus is sent off. I think he saw red in this situation. The question I have here is, what is the on-field referee doing? Now, I know this is why VAR is here, right? And I know it's time to look at the monitor. And this is a situation where I think it's really handy. But as an on-field referee, I mean, you're entitled to mistakes. But I didn't realise that you see it back on Match of the Day because it's so high up in the stadium. But he's done it twice. You saw that with Van der Ven. I mean, from where we were, it looked like he hadn't quite, but it looked like he stamped on Van der Ven. It turns out that he was still, after the whistle was blown, still kicking Van der Ven. So that's one thing you could award a yellow card for. And he got up and violently pushed or poked, whatever way you want to put it, Van der Ven in the face. That's a red card itself. Then he does it later on to Sarr as well. And accidentally his elbow catches Richarlison as well. So he's done several things that could be red cards alone. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if he got more, a few game ban on top of it. James, definite red card, isn't it? He lost his head.
Yeah, and the other thing that's extremely puzzling is Van der Ven got booked. Like, where are you getting this from? Do you know what I mean? There's a great picture of him just walking off going, what the, you know what I mean? It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was. I can only think that he mustn't have seen the Sarr one because that is a clear red on its own, and he's probably just too focused on that. But it's when he's booking Sarr, booking Van der Ven.
You're right, but what's the point of a referee's assistant if they can't see things like that? Do you know what I mean? What's the point?
It is, but it is a great reason to have VAR, and I think it's the first time I've seen it up on screen as well, and to explain it. So I'm quite like that, to be honest. It explains you what's going on when he should have just put, I've mucked up, you know what I mean, or something like that in big letters across the screen. Sorry for booking the Ven. I'm an idiot, something like that. But it was the best bit about that was that you take it back to him sitting on that seat, and it's like he's predicted his next 3 games for West Ham. Where it's absolutely brilliant.
Should have stayed there.
Yeah, life comes at you fast, mate. Thanks for that. That was the perfect circle of life, that for me.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, Alfie, what is Kudus doing? Can you understand thinking behind that? Maybe he's frustrated. He thought that his goal might be the winner to West Ham, build a bit of momentum, and they've been hammered. Can you see what he's even thinking there?
No, I can't. No, the reason why is I honestly haven't seen someone lose their head that bad on a football pitch in a professional game. I possibly ever. Look, because he has no excuse. Because the first one is, as you said, it's a booking. He should be sent off already because it's a booking for kicking Van der Ven on the floor and a minimum booking for slapping him in the face, basically. but he loses all the red mist descended, or the moment of anger came over to me, because he continues to sort of take on the whole Tottenham team. And then there's about a minute later, and Sarr, I mean, if you look at him, I don't know how you can ever want to sort of have a go at Sarr. And he's that honest of a player that he doesn't even go down when he's literally two hands slapped in the face, and he just stands up and carries on. And that incident is a minute after he's kicked Van der Ven. So there's no argument that he's in the heat of the moment. His head is just completely gone. He's lost it in a almost worrying way to go around, and I've almost never seen it happen where he started slapping players up. I mean, when he slapped Tar a minute after it happened, I didn't see that in the crowd. I didn't see that he'd actually done it because, I mean, credit to Sarr as being a professional, he didn't actually go down. I don't know why or he didn't go down in the modern day, but he didn't. He was very good for not actually. When we went for Spurs, but I think when, as you said, as James said, when he saw Van der Ven walk off and just put the thumbs up, I think Van der Ven himself knew you've made a mistake. He's getting turned over, and as you said, I don't think PGMOL will have the bottle to do it. But if you look at the incident, it could easily be a 5-game ban. I mean, it's the most blatant violent conduct I've seen in a long time. I've never seen a player go around slapping players on the pitch. I mean, if it was a fist, he'd be gone for the foreseeable future, maybe even the season. So just because it's slapping players, I don't know why it's that much different. He's still going around. It wasn't like with the Sarr one. Van der Ven sort of pushed him a little bit, so there's a little bit of a self defense there. The Sarr one, I don't actually know if he was speaking to him. I don't know. I don't actually know why. I was still looking back at it, thinking Sarr just sort of there, and then you just get slapped in the face, and I can't understand it. And yeah,
you got Richarlison rolling on the floor as well. It was just absolute chaos. People trying to pull Kudus away, and he's wanting more. He's wanting to take on more. I was like, next thing is the manager to get involved. I was like, they square out to Postecoglou next. So
Richarlison just sort of added to the scene. He wasn't actually involved in it at all. He just sort of, he almost headbutted his shoulder, Kudus' shoulder. I don't know.
He loves that stuff, though, didn't he? He loves it.
Yeah, but seeing him, wasn't surprised to see Richarlison on the floor, and seeing all of them down at once sort of just added to the imagery of that Kudus had just gone for anyone he could see, which he actually hadn't to Richarlison. But I mean, it was, yeah, as I said, it was a moment of madness, and he more than deserves 3 games, possibly more if the FA do go ahead with it. So, I mean, yeah, he deserved to be sent off probably about twice. So it's more than fair.
I mean, ex-referee and Spurs fan Chris in the chat does mention Mitrovic a couple of years ago at Old Trafford. I mean, that was the one where him, Marco Silva, someone else, that they all get sent off, and Fulham went from winning the game to get knocked out. I think it was in the Cup, wasn't it? That was a disaster for Fulham. I believe it's at Old Trafford. I can't remember how Mitrovic got more banned. I think it's 5 or 10 games he got banned, wasn't it? So whatever he got should be, for me, Kudus, because he's there's at least 2, I think, instances of violent conduct there, and then he's just absolutely lost his head. That's a crazy red card. I don't know how you quite explain that one in years to come. But Justin, has VAR served its purpose in this case?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to see a worse one than that, then look up Joey Barton QPR against Man City. That is the one where he totally loses.
I've seen that online.
That one is worse by a country mile. But yeah, VAR has done its job. I mean, it shouldn't have had to. It shouldn't even have got that far. I think, though, the moment the referee puts a symbol up for VAR, I think Kudus knew what was coming. And it's a stupid thing to do because your team's in a really difficult position. You've probably been one of their best players of the season. You've now potentially, you'll have I would guess, a 3-match ban for it being a straight red, and then potentially more on top of that for what you did in between. So you do sort of sit there and think, if it had been a Spurs player who had done that, I'd be absolutely livid, because I think you've just let the whole team down for a situation where you are so important. It'd be the equivalent of, Kulusevski just going off and kicking lumps out of people. It was just stupid. And as nicely now cost his team, who and probably will cost his manager his job, and they'll go back to David Moyes again.
But I love that. I mean, just shows you. I think they're really ungrateful with David Moyes, and they've got a lot better team now, and they're struggling, and they just don't like it. They can't accept it. They'll always be.
Careful what you wish for.
Yes, exactly. Be very careful what you wish for. It's not always better. Maybe in the case of England with Southgate as well. I mean, I think that might change now, but with Lee Castley. But full time, it ends 4-1 Spurs. Justin, what are your overall thoughts on that win? I mean, 3 goals for us, scored in 8 minutes. Oh, yeah, not quite obviously as extreme. It feels like Brighton in reverse in terms of, we collapse in a short period of time. In this case, West Ham capitulate and we take advantage. They just completely collapsed, didn't they, West Ham? Like that, really quick.
I mean, it needs to be, we need to now show that Brighton was just a blip. Obviously, Postecoglou very much didn't like the fact that people were bringing up the Spursy tag. Well, okay, that's fine. If you don't like the Spursy tag, then, make sure it doesn't come back again. This has to be, a building on, because, as you come out, and this is the thing he's got to remember, he has come out and said, I win things in my second season. So, he's put his head on the block with regards to that. Now, whether he's trying to do that to get that belief into the players, well, that's all well and good, but then you need those players to back you up with it. So, it was a good sort of bounce back performance. It was one that was definitely needed. But then, we've got AZ Alkmaar coming up. We've got Crystal Palace. This can't just be, because we've done it before. I think, I can't remember which one of you lot said it before, but, we've done it before where we've thumped a team and then, we've come back and, been, lost. So it needs to be a case of that we need to get back to continuing winning ways. We are going to have some tough games coming up. I think we've got a decent sort of set of fixtures in terms of, I think it's Palace, then Aston Villa, and then Ipswich, I believe.
Ipswich, yeah.
So this is something that he needs to really build upon, because he's got the players he wants. He's had a few blips. You can see what he's trying to instill into these players, but it's all well and good talking about it. Now we've got to go on a run of 5, 6, 7 games of, putting teams to the sword and showing that actually, whether it be for the top 4 or a trophy or even more than that, that we are a serious outfit and we are going to, really make a name for ourselves this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to talk about individual performances. One man I want to mention is Dominic Solanke, who I thought done really well. He got no goals or assists, but I think he has been. All these things that I'm about to list have applied since he's joined Spurs, but I think they just got better as he's played more minutes with the team. But his movement, I thought, was really good. His hold-up play, I think, is massive for players like Son and Johnson running in behind. I just thought every attack actually did come from him. There's obviously a couple that didn't, but his hold-up play and his just creative thinking, I suppose, led to so many chances. And if you look at our goals, he was involved somewhere at some point, whether it be drawing a defender out or holding the ball up. So, Alfie, what were your thoughts on his performance? I think that we can really benefit this season from a classic number 9.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think that's one of the best performances I've seen from a player that hasn't contributed directly to a goal or to a goal. One of my friends who has him in his FPL, he wasn't happy, and he was like, "What's going on with him?" It's hard to almost convey that, like, he actually played really, really well. He was outstanding the whole game. I mean, unfortunately didn't make the cut in the match of the day, so the wider public didn't see it. But there was one run he did towards the end where he just sort of kept bundling through, and he sort of had that belief that he was going to win the ball, create something the whole game. And I thought he was just unbelievable the way he was linking play. I mean, I don't want to praise him too highly or link him too highly to someone, but I think it was almost like a Harry Kane performance. The way he sort of dropped deep, and he was all right to go deeper and link someone up, and he had Son in behind him. And he knew that Son can run in behind, he can drift in centrally. That's fine, and I can create the goal. I can help this move start. And he was unlucky that a few of the moves he did kickstart didn't come off with a goal, really. And I think the goals will come for him. And I almost feel sorry for him that he's he's not almost getting the service at the moment that he deserves. He deserves to get, if the ball comes into the box more often for him, the delivery is just a little bit better. He's going to be scoring a lot of goals this season. But if he keeps playing like that, I will have no worries of him the whole season. Even if he scores 5 goals, gets 5 assists, and the numbers are not there, if he plays like that every week, we won't have an issue because he's just creating so much for the team. He offers so much, which perhaps we weren't getting from Richarlison. Richarlison offers a different game of just sort of causing mayhem, whereas Solanke's a bit more measured, a bit more calculated in his passing, his movement, and it was another really impressive performance that I think just is a sign for the future for him. Is that he's only going to get better from here, and he's only going to become more important for us from this point onwards, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicely said. I completely agree with you on that. Justin, do you think he's been a good signing? Looking back on it, Solanke worth the money?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as I said, I think what we're going to see is that bit. You can tell how good a signing is when you look at the difference he's made against the players he's competing against. So if you look at the fact that he is competing against Richarlison, and I think he still stands out more in terms of not just the goals, but also his hold up plays, bringing other players into it and things like that. And I think what it means is that he creates a situation where defenders can't, if when it was Harry Kane, it was a case of you stop Kane, you stop Spurs almost. I think we all remember, the comment that Guardiola said of a team that, Spurs with, or Harry Kane with Spurs. It was kind of almost, he put it as that. So it's one of those things now where teams can't just, as I said, look at that. They've got to look at the whole thing because of what he creates and how he brings others into play. So he has been important for us. I do think we probably do need to see a few more goals from him, but he's not had a bad return so far. So hopefully he can build on it. I think if we can see, maybe anywhere between 10 to 15 goals, I don't think that'll be a bad return for the first season.
No, definitely not. James, I'm going to ask you about a different player, Brennan Johnson, because obviously his goal scoring record for club and country, which he kept up with Wales in the international break, it has come to an end. But he was unlucky not to be on the score sheet against West Ham because he was a couple of big chances, didn't he? And there's one in particular in that first half where, from where I was sitting, looks really close. In fact, for me, it looked like at one point it might have gone in. He seems a player. It's what confidence does to you, isn't it? Taking on shots. Do you think he done well despite obviously not scoring?
Yeah, I think he was not as impressive as I saw Solanke, but I think Johnson was great, and I think that you only kind of really see this when you're at the stadium. I think where you see the hard work from these players. I think they're a good argument against statistics and data, which sounds a bit strange to say, but that if it's not an assist and a goal, doesn't mean these forward players are not playing well. It was the pressing, the work rate, the openness, taking defenders away from other players. I think Johnson had a good game, to be honest. Obviously, not scoring means that people will not see that or understand that, as much as Alfie was saying about the FPL numbers and stuff that people just kind of look at, I suppose. But yeah, I was still impressed with him, to be honest. In some actions, more impressed. His work rate was fantastic. I mean, the only person I thought that probably outworked him, two, was Kulu and Solanke. Other than that, I thought his work rate was great. The way he was pulling defenders away from and creating chances.
Yeah, and that was one of his better performances.
Yeah,
talked about defensively, him helping out, which was really interesting, definitely. And I'd done a little video for Spurs Kings TV, and I was asked who I wanted to focus on. And I said there's a lot of players I could focus on, but actually I'm going to go with Brennan Johnson because I thought defensively he'd done well, and he didn't score, but I can see that he's grown so much in confidence. Obviously, a lot of players to choose between, so I think you could make a case for any of them. But I want to move on now to our Thursday game. I mean, God knows how you say this team, but we are in action at home in the Europa League. Let's put it that way. So the question really here is, can we keep up our good form in the Europa League? James, how many changes you make? What would your lineup look like? How seriously should we take it? Look at Coventry. I know different competition in in the Carabao Cup, but where we make too many changes and nearly get knocked out? Has it got to be a strong team with a little bit of rotation for you?
Yeah, I think the top kind of teams, when they get to certain stages of knockouts and in the cup competition, especially, they kind of do gentle rotation, don't they, to rest some players rather than huge wholesale changes. And I think we've been burnt enough times, especially in the Carabao Cup there, to learn from don't make 8 to 9 changes. I wouldn't change Vicario. I wouldn't do that. I would rest Sonny and give more a start. I want to see Mikey more. I want to see him run. I want to see him. He gets a goal even in that game there, and that is going to kickstart something and give. And I think when the guys were talking earlier about we need to think about Sonny's replacement, looking at someone like that at the age that he is and bringing him in for these games, and the fact that I think Sonny's injury was quite a part down to burnout. They were talking about him sort of going off to international duty, coming back and stuff. Definitely want to see that change. I'd like to see Bergvall again. I don't know how bad the knock was. I don't know if that means it's going to happen, but I want to see him a few more minutes. I want to see Gray in a 6 rather than being thrown around in different positions. I'd like to see him play in a 6 and try and cement that for competition for Basuma and Bentancur. I don't know, and I normally do know these sort of things, but I don't know if Dragusin is a 3-game or a 1-game ban from that straight red. Is it a 1-game ban? Is he back? Is he available for? Does anybody know?
I don't think he's available.
Oh, is he not?
Who's that?
Dragusin.
It was just 1 game. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was just a 1 game, but I couldn't be sure on that one because they were talking that he could be playing it. But I honestly don't know with that one because it was straight red, wasn't it? So it's difficult to tell with that.
So I would definitely have him in, and I'd probably rest Van de Ven. So I'd have Dragusin and Romero in the middle. I'd like to see. Well, we can't see Spence, obviously. So, but other than that, I wouldn't. They're the changes I would make. To be honest with you, they're not wholesale changes, but a bit of tinkering with a strong bench to bring on if we need it. This is to me. And I've grown up as an FA Cup boy, and I always wanted to win the FA Cup. But this is the focus for me. Europa League, winning that Europa League, qualifying for Champions League, get the trophy and hoodoo off our back. We're favourites anyway. It can't be loads of changes. We have to deliver here. And losing, I know we won the first 2 games, and we're in the top 8 to automatically qualify. But we've got some tough games. We've got Galatasaray coming up. We've got Roma coming up.
Yeah.
We need to be getting this win. So no changes just to kind of see what's going on. I think changes you think that are going to absolutely deliver for us. So yeah, and maybe Archie go out to 6 is a bit of a gamble, but I think he was great in pre-season when we saw a bit of him there. So yeah, other than that, I would go with that and have a very strong bench.
Okay. I like that. Alfie, what would your team look like? Would it be similar to Justin? You make a few changes to James, and but you make the bench strong in case it's needed.
Yeah, as James said, I think the biggest thing for me currently is still Vicario needs to start. I just think I'm not quite sure. The only thing I'm really, really worried about this season is why we haven't got a backup goalkeeper or one of quality. I think it's possibly a ticking time bomb, Vicario. And I just think when we play Forster, the drop off is just too big. We saw it against Coventry. I just think it's a recipe for disaster. So I just hope
like an oak
definitely
tree,
see Vicario.
when he falls.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just suddenly falling now.
I just can't deal with watching the game if he's in net. So yeah, I'd make sure Vicario is in goal. And then yeah, James said I think someone I'd like to see him in a deeper midfield role is Archie Gray. I feel a bit bad for him that he's sort of been put everywhere but in the position that he's probably his best at. I know he played a lot for Leeds last season as a right back, but even then he was sort of recognised amongst Leeds fans that his best position is DM. He played there against Chelsea in the FA Cup and he shone. I mean, when he came on against West Ham, I think he did like a little skill within his own box, and I was a bit like, whoa! But it's just the confidence that he has. He's 18, but he's played the level of games that a 20, 21-year-old plays. And I think throwing him into this game is perhaps the perfect scenario. I would have done it against Karabag, but I see why we didn't, because there's no Spence. It sort of forced Gray into the right back position. But I think Porro can handle playing again there, and I think I'd put Gray in the middle. And then as for the rest of the team, I don't know. I'd like to see more, as James has said. I'd love to see him have a run out in front of the home crowd as well. I think that's what he sort of perhaps needs, a full start in front of a home crowd. I feel a bit bad that that Fevenikos game, he played so well, but you almost felt he wasn't getting the appreciation he deserved, because it was away, it was a hostile environment, and the Fevenikos fans are sort of just making it their game, and you couldn't really appreciate Moore's performance, which was really impressive. So I think he can handle that sort of stage. But other than that, I would sort of keep it similar, and I definitely think there's a Parrott goal in this game without a doubt. I'm waiting for it to happen. It's almost inevitable in my mind. So I'd go slightly strong, because I think we're gonna have to score at least a couple this game. But I believe we will, and I think Andrew will go pretty strong still. After not everyone's gone to the international break like Bentancur and Gray only played one game for the 21s. Players that they can come in and get some minutes under their belt.
Yeah, definitely. I think Bentancur, as you said, that those kind of players definitely, I think, will come in, considering Basuma played a big chunk of that West Ham game from the start. But you mentioned Archie Gray there. I think he shows how much trust Ange has in him. In pre-season was evident, and throughout the early part of this season, to play him in numerous positions at such a young age, there's a huge amount of trust there. And we're yet to see, I think, what he's capable of, because he has played out of position. So those fans that make an early judgment on him, I think he needs a lot of time. And we've seen some good bits, like coming on against West Ham. You mentioned that skill in particular. But Justin, what would your lineup look like? You can get Timo Werner in there.
Now, Harry, you do turn around and you ask us to be polite on the show, and if you're going to start asking questions like that, you will not get polite answers. So, in answer to move away from that very childish question, Mikey Moore should start. I do think, to be fair, I felt a bit annoyed that when we were 4-1 up, and Kudos had gone off, you could have given Moore some minutes there, I think. But I'd like to see him start. I don't think we need to be making massive changes. I think we've got to be very careful, as we saw against Coventry when we tried to make the wholesale changes and we almost got caught with our pants down. So maybe, I think it could be a case of we start Maddison and give Kulusevski a rest, and maybe then bring in Bentancur or Archie Gray or Bergvall, someone like that in that sort of area. At the back, I saw in one of the comments that it was a 1-game ban, so Dragoshin, could play for there. I don't see many more changes that I'd be ultimately looking to make. Maybe drop Solanke and give Richarlison a run. Obviously he came back in, he had some minutes, so maybe it's there. I know there was talk of which position could he play, but I think he's got to be a striker now for us. We've got players who can play right wing, left wing. It should not be him. He should not be coming into that conversation. So I'd probably say more spine of changes. I'd probably say Richarlison, probably bringing on either Gray or Bentancur or Bergvall, someone like that in the middle, and then Dragoshin. And I'd say that'd probably be about it. And then maybe tweaks if they need to through the game.
Okay. No, thank you very much. And Justin, we'll stay with you for score predictions. What's your score prediction in this one?
I think it'll be 3-1. I think they'll score because we seem to not be able to keep a clean sheet. But no, I think we'll come out 3-1 winners.
Okay. I'm going to be bold, go for a clean sheet, but go with a kind of conservative 2-0 victory. James?
3-0. So in between the two of you, I actually think we'll get a clean sheet, which is very rare. You're right, Justin. But I just think we're going to get it. Yeah, I'm going to go 3-0 Spurs. But you're right. I forgot about Richarlison, by the way. Yeah, and it would be quite good to see him get some minutes under, get some fitness.
I mean, someone mentioned there with his injury record about going down, about he expect to be out for the season. So maybe he would be fit, so we won't have to worry. But no, I forgot about Richarlison as well, actually, and maybe Odebear as well. He was in contention for West Ham game, didn't make it, so surely he's in contention again for Thursday. Yeah. Maybe just a little bit too soon, but I don't think he'll start, but definitely someone to get some minutes. But Alfie, what's your score prediction?
Yeah, I think 3-1 sounds about right. I think, as I said before, in that Parrott goal just feels like something that is going to happen. It's a storyline waiting to be written. But I think, yeah, we should have enough to overturn them in this game, especially at home. Feels like one we have to win again with this new table format. You're not quite sure how many points we have to sort of accumulate to get in the top 8, which you want to definitely get in, because otherwise, you want them extra 2 games. And I think the crowd will be behind them. A bit like the Carabao result, we sort of dominated the game, and I think we'll have enough firepower and enough clinicality up front, hopefully, to beat them at least 3-1, and hope for a more goal is what I'm fingers crossed for.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully we do get some youngsters to see from the start, as well as get the balance right to go strong and just get the job done. Ultimately, as you said, that top 8 being inside there is very important. We don't have to play any extra unnecessary games at all. It's not what's wanted. It's a long enough season with a new format as it is. But I think that wraps us up nicely for this week's show, and it was going to be a good one. As soon as we beat West Ham, always is a good one. Should have got West Ham fan on, shouldn't I? Last minute, a massive. They would have come on though, or run away. Massive thanks to everyone who listened, tuned in, contributed, put their questions in the chat. Also, thanks to my panel, James. Always a pleasure to have you on. Talk to people about what you do, very important, and where they can find you across social media.
So yeah, I'm on the Voice of Spurs across all social media. I play at the Spurs Stadium every home game, and I'm doing a tour around the supporters club around the world, where different supporters clubs are booking me. So I'm doing America, doing Norway, Denmark, and parts of Europe and the UK as well. I'm about to release this week a EP of tracks that were recorded at the stadium, and every single penny is going to go to Tottenham Food Bank. So not profits.
Oh, lovely.
Every penny is going to go to those guys. I had a meeting with them yesterday. We've signed a contract to get everything right. So yeah, that's all coming out this week.
Lovely.
You don't get beaten on Thursday, which might be weird to drop it on a Friday, but we're not doing so. But yeah, the Voice of Spurs for everything. And the next home game, Thursday, I'm at Shelf Bar, Level 1, Block 120, pre and post game, if you want to come check it out.
Lovely. Thank you very much, James. Keep up the amazing work, because win, lose or draw, you're there to give that kind of positive vibe and energy that is much needed, while playing some excellent music as well. So no, thank you very much, James, for coming on. Alfie, thank you very much also for coming on the show once again. It has been a while. Where can people find you across social media?
Just below, obviously, is my Twitter. And then I've got my Instagram is just Alfie Nicholson Journalism, which is just covering, if you want to see some photos that I take at the academy games. I photographed obviously Lancashire last year, and a few other academy players that are coming through now. So if you want to get an early sight on them, my early review on them, you can follow me on Instagram there. And then my TikTok is the same handle. And yeah, just sort of young journalist trying to make my way through at the moment, doing podcasts like this, and then join speaking about Spurs. So yeah, if you like that, then just Alfie Nicholson pretty much everywhere, and you'll find me.
Thank you very much for coming on. Justin, thank you. Where can people find you across social media, apart from obviously away from social media, driving Werner to the nearest airport, on flight back to Germany? Where can people find you though?
Yeah, you can probably find me outside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with a sign for Werner and a car to take him anywhere away from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But no, generally here, Twitter is the main place to come find me. So if there's anything that I've said, or if there is somebody who does actually think Werner is a decent player, then they're welcome to comment on my social media side of things. But yeah, that's generally where you can find me. And thank you so much for having me on as always.
No, thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to everyone in the chat. As I said, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. If you are listening on a podcast platform, don't forget to drop us a follow and a 5-star review, but also head over to YouTube, even if you don't come back, and smash that subscribe button for Premier League, England, and Spurs content. Something every day, pretty much at the moment, or every other days. There's a lot coming out, and thank you for all the recent views on the Matchday vlogs. And do check out our sponsors and partners, the Kitman. But for now, a massive come on you Spurs. If you know a West Ham fan, make sure you speak to them if you haven't already. Up the Spurs.
You were working as a manager at Celtic Park when we met you. We picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around. You've turned us into something new. Ange, Postecoglou, you know that we believe it when you say you're gonna change it. Ange, Postecoglou, we're the mighty Tottenham and nobody's gonna stop them. Oh, we look so fine in blue and lily white. And then he said to me, I'm from a land down under. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh.